Aloha Big Island. This is Wego with Update. Today is February 6th. Purpose of this channel is to get people registered to vote. Go to vote411.org, register yourself, and make sure that you're registered as a Democrat. You can go to the Democratic webpage. Both of those links are included in the description below, along with most of what we talk about here. Purpose of this channel, as I said, is to get people registered to vote, to broadcast YangGangs and different events that are on the Big Island, as well as almost all the other events on island, and what's going on with the Yang 2020 campaign, keeping up with the daily what-have-yous. We check out Twitter, Reddit, news feeds, periodicals, nation news, and then all the other different YouTube channels, which is great. So if you like what we do, please subscribe, like, and if you like to donate, we've got our Patreon link down in the bottom below. Alrighty, you can visit GANG Big Island at gmail.com and drop us an email if you'd like to be informed, or you can go to Yang 2020 /events to see what's happening near you, as well as you could go to Yang Prints and print off different flyers, posters that suit your needs when you go canvassing, or you just want to go to a Yang hang. If you are interested in getting merchandise, you could go to yang2020.com and grab some of the t-shirts, math hats. The reason why these are great, I believe, is it engages people in thought. If they haven't heard much about Yang or don't know Yang at all, a math hat is a great way to get into that. I've had so many people ask me about math that would have otherwise not known of Andrew. And if you don't have funds to do that, you could also have swag sent to you. You could put in and you can take a request on YangSwagAngels.com. It's a place for people who have overextended and they can't donate anymore to be able to still have the campaign, because every merch purchase goes towards the campaign, and every purchase that is made for you, and if you got a shirt on, will help you have a little representation of the man you think and his policies that'll change the world. So that's what this channel is about. If you dig it and you're not from the Big Island, I hope you enjoy. It's a good Cliff Notes summation of what's going on in the world around us. It's just kind of catered towards Hawaiian Islands and Big Island. If you're on the Hawaiian Islands, you can check out Hawaiiyanggang.com, as well as donate there. The portions of all that go towards the campaign, but Hawaii in and of itself gets a little recognition. Other than that, most of our accounts go through ACTBlue as well. Okay, register 411, we got that. Hawaii district information is provided below. Are you interested in being a delegate in Hawaii? If so, there's a description below, and there's also a hot link. Click on that, fill out the information, and let's see if we could get you to be a delegate for the Andrew Yang campaign. I do know that there's an event happening in March where you would need to be there. More information about that will come when we find out. We started looking for information about where the polling places are. There's only going to be 20 for the whole island. So we don't know how many we're getting here on the Big Island yet. And so along with this, you could also go to MOBILIZE events, or you could go to Yang Near Me. Just type it in your browser and it'll pull up a website that'll help find an event or a hangout or something near you. A little harder here on the Big Island, but if you have an idea for an event, just go there to yang2020.com, create the event, and we will try to attend as well. If you have any information, pictures, you want to put them on our channel so we can send them on over to Hawaiiyanggang, and they can put it on the website. You can send those to YangGangBigIsland at gmail.com. Other than that, there are about 148 days till Andrew Yang is inaugurated as our president. There's a countdown in the description below. Throw it on your YouTube feed. Throw it on your your Facebook or your Twitter. Try and get a little bit more involvement with that, because I love countdowns. I love to watch the days go down. It was a long time ago that we started talking about Iowa caucuses, and now that Iowa caucuses are come and gone, regardless of how you feel about it, it quite possibly was a mulligan for those who weren't going to get the percentages that they need. We honestly, at this point, I don't know if we'll ever know. We're already 5-6 days past it. Where I'm at is I'm just letting it go, and I'm moving on to phone banking for New Hampshire. The campaign and Andrew's policies are no less important, and the people need to know about them. Other than that, let's move on, get down to it. Today on Twitter, they're talking about New Hampshire, as I was just talking about. That's all the buzz. The Iowa caucuses are slowly fading away. After, February 3rd caucuses, nothing came through. February 4th was State of the Union. February 5th was the death of democracy with Trump's acquittal. And regardless how I feel or anybody really feels about that, it really does nothing for the campaign. Andrew called this. He said this is what would happen. So I do believe everything's going according to plan. Couldn't have known about the YangGang, couldn't have known about the impeachment process. What's happening is just using statistics, data, and math for an inferred guess, having the best information and making an estimated or a raised choice. Anywho, Reddit, more the same, how we're rewriting the tools for the 21st century, and honestly, we do need administration that just can capture the idea of using technology to do these things. Right now, I think if we could vote for American Idol, then we're able to vote for the president, or at least do something in the caucuses for this. Regardless if it was incompetence or if it was criminal activity, it distracts from the true goal, and that is to represent the voice of the people, which is why I support Andrew Yang and have gratitude for him. All right, the video that's on everybody's mind is a CNN, so let's just jump into that. CNN was with Don Lemon. Don Lemon asked before the first 3 minutes, we got about 62% of the polls that came out that were chosen by the DNC in the certain districts, which represented a certain favorable candidate, only showed that Andrew had about 5% of that popular vote. And then he asked him about that. Andrew just brought up the fact that, Clinton got about that, and he went on to be a two-term president, or maybe even less than that. I think it might have been 3. Anyhow, moves on to 340 and the video about student loans and debt. At 520, talks about the freedom dividend yet again and how it will affect everything. I understand those of you who've been watching this know the details of the Stumpy inside and out, but the idea is it really does take gravity when you see these things as a Venn diagram, and somebody else asks the question, and then Andrew answers it with the freedom and dividend. It also ties in all the other different representation points where it will affect lives in places we don't even understand because the government bureaucracy is cut out. Hence, the UBI really does affect, there's a question down below too, about the socioeconomic effect it will have on societies and how it inevitably will change the focus. All right, at 5:20, talks about that freedom. At 8, talks about climate change. At 10:40, Dom says something awkward about the birds and the bees, and Andrew has to remind Dom that his kids are like 5 and 7. Something like that. And it was just weird and interesting. Anyway, 11:40, economic or social reform was the question, and Andrew tied it in, as I said, to the freedom dividend. I do believe that economically, if we benefit everybody's needs rather than just the rich, that everything else will fall in line. Around 1, it talks about the Gallop poll and how Democrats relate it to the GDP versus wellness. My wife and I have had several talks, and I think what we boil all these campaign policies down and everything comes down to a couple words: wellness and gratitude. I think Andrew Yang, personally, is the only person representing the people's choice, and I don't feel well. I don't know if you feel well, and if you do feel well, it'd be great to take a good look at what GDP means to you and concerns to what your neighbors feel. Now's the time. At 14, a Bernie supporter asks, are you the best to beat Donnie Drumpf? And basically, Andrew uses math to explain it, gives the old stumper, but really drives home now that it's getting closer, and we're seeing the social divide that politics is making. I do believe after the Iowa caucus, the Tom Parade, Debaucus caucus, that everybody kind of will be in their own element to understand that it's really not left or right, and that it was the criminal activity on both sides and the incompetence on both sides which really led the American people to be fortified in one choice. Andrew Yang, not only is he pragmatic, but he gives a grateful a dynamic to the stage, which reminds us we're all still Americans and we all still have a voice. Anyway, at 18, why Dave Chappelle? It gets followed up by, before that, at about 1650, they asked why that he thinks he's the most electable and why he could beat Drumpf. And the bottom line comes down to, he says why he's having attractant of Republican voters as well as independents, as well as people who've never voted before, as well as boomers. There's a clear reasoning, and I think Andrew's pointing to is not really the man at this point, it's the message behind the man, the politics. A lot of older voters that I talked to on all these phone banking calls that I did, where they want to vote for the man because they want to trust the institution and the idea of a handshake still. And the closest thing to that on the Democratic side, in my opinion, is Andrew Yang. I don't discount any of the other candidates, whether male or female, or their policies. I'm just saying that in a whole, in a nutshell, the most electable and the most guaranteed to beat the opposition, regardless of who the Republicans choose, which will be Trump, is that you need somebody pragmatic enough to cut through the BS. And I do think that comedic sense of dystopia that Andrew brings to every conversation tends to weigh towards somebody who also thinks pragmatically, but also has a very pessimistic view, and now is forced with the opportunity to have an optimistic view while holding on to the old ideologies of what yesteryear brought us. And if that's nothing more than a bunch of boomers scared about their prescription drugs and Medicare, then let's go that reaction route. But let's not drive them to that. Let's have them just be persuaded by common sense, which is my own personal opinion. I spent, I think, 2.5 hours on the phone with a Republican that, after I got done talking to him, I don't know if anything else really was changed besides the perception that everybody else sees things differently. And we talked about brass tax hooks. I can tell you his concerns are the same as mine. And when I started dropping data knowledge on him about what had happened 10 years ago and what had happened after the floods in Cedar Rapids and Iowa, and their major exports and what the subsidiaries do, it really comes down to, I learned a lot about myself and a lot about Iowa just by phone banking. So if I have nothing else to say, if you're YangGanging it right now, get out there and volunteer. Go phone bank. Phone banking is the most important thing you could do for the nation and yourself. Really shows you what Andrew's talking about. In 20 factor fiction from the news media and how we could trust that led into talking about hiding behind First Amendment and political ads. Around 2250, Andrew had a message straight for Zuckerberg. It was great. At 24, the mental health of the United States is being questioned, whether it's at the highest ranks or it's at the poorest of us. There really needs to be some sort of national awareness that draws attention to, we are not well. The GDP does not dictate wellness, and you can see that because fear is what we're primarily basing most of our actions off of. That and stupidity. My opinion, my bad. 2750, prosecution rates and how people are basically incarcerated. 30, freedom dividend, again backing up that notion of, we will pay you not to be incarcerated. We will cut away the fabric which says that profiteering off someone's incarceration is morally acceptable. And then at 45:30, basically was talking about presidential tweets and what all that's about and what his interaction with that would be. Moving on, next video. Summation Kid basically puts the Yang ad in my case. Well-spoken, well-dictated, good use of our money, YangGang. Good job, campaign. Moving on, Shaving with Tully. Yang speaks at the Exeter, New Hampshire Hall. There's no Q&A, but it's a great way to see Andrew kind of right after the Iowa caucus. Next, moving on, Grassroots, Russell. They are talking for a little minute before Andrew gets back into another stumper, and then at 1 hour and 11 minutes in this video, there is Q&A. Starts into healthcare about aging citizens, talks about student loan systems at 1 hour and 16 minutes. Inevitably, the questions, there's 2 or 3 after that, which are all poignant, but it goes in the same direction. He's talking about follow-up to the stump speecher. But it's also good to see Andrew moving through what happened after Iowa and all these stump speeches. I know we've seen probably every single one if you're a hardcore YangGanger, but the idea is this is new for people who haven't seen Andrew speaking directly to him, and he knows that every conversation is brand new, generally. So I commend him for being able to keep the same sort of level of enthusiasm when knowing what's going on in the background. Kudos. If I have to say anything about The Hill, is it's my favorite news source. Segar and Crystal bring it to it. Everything you need to know about what happened in the Iowa caucus is collectively in this description. Check it out. It says it all. And then American Jobs Factory. I do believe they're from somewhere in Texas. And this is another one of Iowa's speeches, and it talks about the message being frustrated and trying to get using the numbers of masses. I do believe that my own interaction with trying to prepare for the caucus over these last several months led me up to kind of like the feeling most of us had is like all of our efforts were for naught, and what's being reinstilled is the code of conduct. Don't be angry, don't be upset. This is just all a part of the uphill struggle, and we are gaining momentum as the wave right now. So, YangGang! So as nothing else, I would say get out there and phone bank. We could be sitting where Bill Clinton did, and he served 2 terms. Let's try not to pull a Howard Dean. Kia! Momentum's momentum. When we're getting into the field of this, I do believe the voters are going to make the practical choice. Also, Yang said it himself. The only person Drumpf isn't really attacking is Yang, because he does understand the implications of starting a battle before you're supposed to start a battle. I'm not giving props to the man for having any which way or percentage rating out of anything, because I don't know what he is with that administration or what's going on. And if I did, that would just be my own personal opinion and speculation. However, I do have to say that it is odd and interesting that the man who always has everything to say about everything always has nothing to say about Andrew Yang. So I think we're going to end it on that right now. And as always, aloha Big Island.